Welcome to Urban Knife Guy, where we explore the urban knife style and jungle survival. This is part 2 of a 2-part series on the modern Malaysian parang. Parang is Malay for a large broad knife, similar to what is known as a machete in the West. If you missed the first part of this video series, do check out the link in the card above or in the description below. In this video, we will be looking at the Malaysian parang, materials and construction. This applies to all types of parangs, whether it is a duku chandong, golok or lading, and is not specific to a particular design. Let's start with the parang blade. The blade is called bila in Malay, and typically the parang is made from spring steel or leaf steel, which is carbon steel. For a lot of Malaysian parang makers, the steels tend to be recycled steel from machinery or vehicles. The most common carbon steels currently used are S50C, 5160C, and SUP9A. These are all medium to high carbon steels. The blades traditionally are hand forged and hammered, as evidenced by these black marks. Some modern artisan makers will use modern equipment such as cutters, grinders, and belt sanders to make the parangs. They may also use newer steels like D2, VG10, N690, M390, but I believe all production parangs use carbon steel. This is mainly due to the supply of premium steels, but more importantly, to keep costs down. While the knife community is spoilt by super steels and premium steels, there are distinct advantages of using high carbon steel. While it can rust, especially in this tropical weather, it is a tough material and is easy to sharpen. The parang is seen as a tool that must last when you're out in the jungle. High carbon steel is tough enough to ensure that the parang does not break. Its edge retention may not be as good as premium steels, but it's easy enough to field sharpen and very quickly it becomes an effective tool. The problem with hard steels is that it's much more difficult to sharpen, and if you do not have the proper sharpening tools in the field, it will be very difficult to sharpen. Regardless of what steel a maker uses, it all boils down to the heat treatment. If the heat treatment is not done right, even a super steel can perform inferior to a carbon steel. Most good parang makers will use differential hardening. That means that different parts of the blade has different hardness. You want the spine hard for strength, but the blade and handle less hard but tougher so it does not chip or break. The blade thickness for most parangs run between 4mm to 6mm, with the average being 4.5 to 5mm. The thickness depends on the type of parang and usage, as well as the maker's choice. The thicker blades are used for chopping, thick or hardwood. In terms of the grind, most parangs are convex grinds to facilitate chopping and so that the blade does not get stuck in green wood. Most axes have convex grinds as well. You definitely do not want a hollow grind, as the blade edge will be too brittle and the blade will get stuck in green wood. Some modern parang makers use a saber grind. It is essentially a Scandi grind with a secondary bevel. That means there's a primary grind about halfway to 1/3 down from the spine, leading to a secondary grind at the edge. This is a saber ground parang made by FF Blades based out of Perak, a state in northwestern peninsular Malaysia. I field tested this and it chops well and it holds its edge. I also think it's easier to sharpen a saber grind than a convex grind. Now let's talk about blade length. Traditionally, the blade length for parangs is typically between 12 to 36 inches, depending on the purpose and usage. In more recent years, the shorter parangs of 8 inch and 10 inches have become more popular due to the increased interest in recreational hiking and bushcraft. Since these users do not need the parang for extensive agricultural use, the shorter parangs are lighter and easier to carry around. This is similar to hatchets and camp axes. These parangs here all have 8-inch long blades. In terms of constructions, parangs traditionally and even today for production parangs are all stick tang or rat tail tang. That means the tang or the tail of the blades do not extend the entire length of the handle. All these parangs go in about 2.5 inches to 3.5 inches. The way it is made is that the tail is inserted into a hole into the handle, and resin or epoxy is used to seal and hold the blade in place. For modern production parangs, it is now common to have a metal ring made from copper or brass. So this is a ring around the head of the handle. Sometimes a brass pin is used to hold the blade to the handle, as in the case of my parang, as well as the parang from Parang Lipis. Now, the blade pin does not prevent the blade from becoming loose, but it does prevent it from flying out if it does become loose. Some might think that a stick tang is an inferior design and the parangs should be a full tang or at least stick tang all the way to the end of the handle, and that is debatable. There are several reasons why the stick tang is still used today even in modern parangs. First, this is the traditional method that has been used for hundreds of years. Parangs are handmade, and achieving a full tang that is flush with the handle is not easy to make by hand with traditional tools. The stick tang makes the parang front heavy, and this makes it more efficient for chopping, and this is often an overlooked point. The stick tang disperses the shock and vibration from chopping better. This can reduce fatigue if using the parang for long periods. This construction also allows for field repair easily if needed, and that's what the Orang Asli or natives believe as well. For more information on the construction of the parang and the stick tang justification, I suggest you check out this video by Boreal Wilderness, where he breaks it down well. A full tang parang definitely has its advantages when it comes to safety and durability. And for modern consumers, there's an expectation and perception that good knives have full tangs. Some modern parang makers and artisan knife makers in Malaysia do make a full tang parang, such as this one from FF Blades. There is an added weight to a full tang parang, but it's not as much as you might think. For example, this is only 20 grams heavier than the My Parang Duku Chandong. However, with the full tang, you definitely have a much more secure feel to the parang, as the tang runs between the handle entirely and is bolted together. But there's more vibration and shock to the hand when chopping. Let's talk about the parang handle or hulu in Malay. Traditionally, parang handles are always made of some kind of hard wood. The most common woods are kayu arang bunga, which is black ebony or Malaysian ebony. Ringgis, also known as Borneo rosewood or tiger ringgis, is also quite common. And there are also other woods such as kayu nangga and kayu cempedak, which are both hardwoods. Some parangs also import wood from overseas, such as the case with my parang. Traditionally, the tail of the blade is inserted into a block of wood, and then that block of wood is chopped and shaped to form the parang handle. Nowadays, handles can be made separately, and all higher-end parangs have wood handles. The cheap, mass-produced parangs sold at hardware stores have plastic handles. Naturally, these are not as durable, but they are cheap. Artisan knife makers can also make handles out of other materials such as micarta, just like folding knives or fixed blades. The parang sheath or sarong can be made from a wide variety of materials. Traditionally, these are made of wood, and traditional makers still make the wood sheaths today. Common woods for the sheaths include serunai wood, which is hollow bamboo, acacia beacia wood, and acacia bawang wood, both which are hardwoods. These wooden sheaths are made mainly to keep the tradition alive, and some may have intricate carvings which are essentially pieces of art and used as decoration pieces. For more modern usage, low-end sheaths are made of molded plastic for mass-produced parangs or PU imitation leather, like this. It is not particularly durable, but it is cheap. For the higher-end parangs, many go with kydex, which I think is great for this climate. It is also lightweight, which makes it practical for transporting around. My parang makes a high-quality nylon sheath that is inspired by the traditional wooden sheath in terms of the shape and how the parang sits inside the sheath. Leather sheaths like this are not very common in Malaysia due to the high cost of production and, more importantly, the weather. Leather absorbs moisture and will cause the carbon blade to rust faster. There are two main ways to wear the sheath. One is on the belt, and that's very common. So most parang sheaths will have a belt loop of some kind. The other way is to sling it around your body, and that's the way I like to do it. You can secure it to the sheath with rope or paracord and use it as a sling. I use a carabiner and a tactical sling. To close this video, I'll briefly talk about current parang makers and manufacturers in Malaysia. There's quite a wide variety of parang makers in the country. For the mass market, Sam Lee is an established brand that makes hardware and gardening tools. These parangs are inexpensive and come with plastic handles as well as a plastic or PU sheath. There are also many small unknown traditional parang makers across the country. For the more upmarket production parang makers currently, the most well-known brand would be My Parang made in Bidor, Perak. A good product and marketing have made this brand well known around the world through international distributors. Parang Tantari from Johor is a newer brand but makes good parangs and show they do think about improvements based on user feedback. Parang Lipis from Pahang is also one of the more prominent newer brands with distribution across the country. There are about 20 artisan makers and up-and-coming manufacturers like FF Blades, Fusan Blades, HD Ironworks, Hot Red Blades, and Easy Blades to name a few. For a complete list of parang makers and manufacturers in Malaysia, do check out my website urbanknifeguide.com on modern Malaysian parangs. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you think I missed out any vital information, do let me know in the comments below so this knowledge base can grow. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you like the content in general, please subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell. I'll be doing more videos on Malaysian parangs, and I'll also do individual reviews of each of these parangs and test them in the field. I'll also be doing a video on the best Malaysian parangs for hiking and bushcraft. Thanks for watching. Talk to you soon.